lots of funny stuff.
Welcome back to BRMC's Healthy Connections with our guests today, Melody Sykes and Judy Fagan, and we've been talking about The Last Dance and coming up March 30th,
next Friday
at 9 o'clock out in Cotter.
Behind the high school.
Behind the high school, okay.
And there'll be police there to direct traffic and show them where to park, but bring lawn chairs.
Okay, bring lawn chairs, yeah, because it might be a little damp on the ground.
And it's about 45 minutes long, so it won't interrupt anybody's morning too much, and I think it's really worth the community seeing it.
Judy, tell me a little bit about previous or past Last Dance.
We were laughing at break, and I said so many things have come out of The Last Dance over the years. There have been sad things and scary things and funny things, and one year we had 2,800 students show up at the rodeo arena. We had it there, and we had 2 cars wrecked, and we brought in Cotter, had allegedly a drug truck of kids that came in and through the gates of the rodeo arena and landed on the accident, and everything's called into 911. It's live, and then the calls go out just like they normally do. And I had to get insurance because I couldn't move 1,010 students out of Mountain Home High School on a bus without getting them insured. So I had to get them insured for 3 hours over there. And we couldn't let them drive their own cars, so we had to bus everybody. And Dana Brown and I got our heads together, and we made it happen. And we got them on the buses, and I would say 30 minutes probably is reasonable. We had them all on buses, and she did, and got them over to the rodeo arena. And we looked at each other later and realized we had performed an evacuation exercise to get that many students out of the building.
If we had a tornado, anything coming our way.
Mountain Home knows how to do it. That high school, Dana Brown, she had them in on those buses and out, and we body bagged a boy who was claustrophobic, and we were trying to do sign language across the field to get law enforcement to unzip him, and I've had a mother pass out, and I've had another one throw up.
Oh my.
When they have to go out, because we don't let them see them in makeup, and when the only thing we add to the piece that's really not natural is that we have a police escort that brings the parents on the field to identify their dead children, and they don't get to see them in advance. And they've agreed to go through this, put themselves through this, and so what their reaction is real. And I think it's important for students to see what they leave behind when they do that. It's living proof that their actions have a domino effect on everybody that loves them, regardless of what they're doing right now and the risk that they're taking. If they hurt themselves, they hurt everybody that loves them. Yep. And that's a message that we really drive home, because I make them all write an obituary with their parents. Even though they're not the students that we declare deceased in the wrecks, they have to, one of the projects leading up, we work on this for about 2 months in different workshops and things, and they have to write an obituary to tell me what their life is all about to this day. Because you don't get to live past this day. So I want you to tell me, who you are up till now, and then I want you to tell me all the people you leave behind. And you have to do this with your parents. And you have to write it down, and I'm going to copy it off and print it up, and we're going to put a big poster of that in the hallway, and we'll have memorial tables in the high school all next week with the obituaries on the walls, and as if all of them had died, and their pictures and their favorite things on the tables for other students to bring things in honor of them. And it's just to recognize the fact that when you're gone, you're gone. But you leave behind, it's a very selfish act to get in a car drunk or with somebody that's drunk. And you almost kill everybody that cares about you. And those are the things you need to think about, more than me just saying don't drink and drive, because it's bad and you can get hurt.
Where did the concept come from?
Well, they do these things all over the country, and actually The Last Dance has been used as a theme out in California, and it was Mary Kirby that told me that they had used a piece of their stuff for a community service DVD that they put in the college and some of the schools years before I had met Mary. And so I called the company, and there apparently was no copyright on it or something that allowed me to have the name. And so I had a friend that was a police officer in Bryant who was doing this every other year under the name of Every 15 Minutes, because that's how frequently we lose a young person to drugs and alcohol in this country. So and that's a very strong program. There's many of them out there if you go online. But so I went over and I watched his, and I got some information, and then I just kind of created my own deal from it.
What a great job. I mean, nothing is more important to a parent than their child. And this is a fear that I think every parent has. That
when they get in that car, whether they're texting, whatever they're doing in that car that distracts them,
they're not paying attention.
It's a powerful piece of equipment, and their driver's license is the first way for them to become independent. So there's a lot of responsibility that they don't realize to have that license, and it can be taken away so quickly with any of these charges. They don't have to even have an accident.
One picture is worth 1,000 words.
And minor in possession now doesn't even have to be in a car to lose their driver's license. So the state looks at it very seriously. The driver services people feel like it's a privilege to have a license in Arkansas, and if you don't behave yourself, then this is what we're going to do, and you don't get to have one. You don't get to drive, and in some cases you can go to jail if you drive illegally. So there's a whole lot of information built into the responsibilities of driving a car, not only for teens but for adults as well.
You bet. And Melody, I know that with the trauma team that is over at Baxter Regional
they
Medical
get
Center,
everything when it's over. They get it all. They're the cleanup squad.
I see more than I want to. Some days. And it's just sad because a lot of stuff could be prevented, you know. And as adults, we're just as bad. We drop our phone. We don't use a Bluetooth, you know. We're distracted. We might think, oh, well, I can text Kay, you know, and I'm done, and whoever I'm talking to. And one of the big things that you'll be seeing is it'll say the conversation can wait, that conversation can wait. And there's not a conversation in this world that can't wait if you're behind the wheel of a car.
Right.
And you know, I grew up hearing don't drink and drive, don't drink and drive, don't drink and drive. But I grew up in a household where a member of that household drank and drive every day. So I didn't listen. You know, why should I listen? Right. You know, my parent was drinking and driving. You know, there was no consequences for him until he was in his 50s. So, you know, it was not a big deal to me until I saw an accident. And I was a grown woman working in an ER and saw what had happened to a family, and it just really impacted me. And I thought, you know, my dad could have been driving that car. He could have been driving that car and have destroyed this family of 5.
I know I had personal dealings with the families that some time back there was a bus that overturned, and they brought we were the closest hospital, so they brought in all the kids. And the parents, I mean, just...
the agony.
It was devastating.
It's just, and in this case, we were very lucky. It could have been so much worse than it was. It was bad enough, but certainly in watching those poor parents come through the door and not knowing if their child was alive or not, what condition they were in, it's
and it
very
could have been prevented had someone been taking their medications appropriately.
Correct.
And not driving when they were taking medication that they didn't need to be taken to drive.
Absolutely drug
It could have been prevented.
So.
It could have
That's one of the biggest problems I have on my caseload right now is people that are declared impaired, a substantial danger to themselves or others on their medication, even though it's a legal prescription. Sometimes people get so comfortable with what they take, they don't realize that maybe you should stay at home with it and not drive.
Your reflex time isn't what it was.
They are undergoing a drug recognition exam that is grueling for 2.5 hours with the police to determine their level of impairment, and they're coming under the DWI statute. And we've had to bump up our teaching curriculum to cover over-the-counter meds or prescription medication now in the DWI program. So when I started so long ago, because I've been in one form of law enforcement or drug and alcohol work for over 30 years, and we started out with alcohol, then began to add marijuana into it and some other designer drugs, and we got into cocaine and heroin. When I came up here, there was more meth and alcohol, and still is, but now we're into prescription drugs, and we just keep having to go back to school to figure out, you know, how to talk to people about those kinds of things, because the playing field has changed.
Sure. And a lot of folks, and I'm not picking on a particular age group, but in this case I do have to refer to some of our senior citizens.
Oh yeah, we have a really strong senior community, and they're on medication that's appropriate and all, but it doesn't say you can drive a car with it, and that's you have somebody's 72. I mean, the highest I've had is 82 years old. I've had many in their 70s. They're devastated when they're arrested for something like that because it's a legal prescription
because
for
they've
them.
been on the straight and narrow their entire life and have never
thought that they would have been arrested.
Sure.
Ever.
And so we have a broader stroke we're dealing with now in terms of pharmaceuticals, and it's just people paying more attention to themselves and how they feel when they get out in a car, and especially people that have a lot of responsibility, like driving a bus and being responsible for transportation for others. I feel like definitely have a step above everybody for the integrity of what they're doing. And
I need to know when to say no. I'm not going to get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
That's hard. It would be hard for me. It'd be hard for me. Oh, well, I just took my pain medicine today. I haven't been drinking. I'm not, smoking dope or whatever. But to know that you don't need to be driving when you have those chemicals in your body. Yeah. It's hard to recognize that.
Yeah, you were talking about kids and families. Melody was. I did a little sketch over a little class, fifth graders at Cotter years ago. I was called on. They had a special month of focusing on drugs. Kids are really aware of what their parents do, or people that live in the house with. When I started asking them to describe to me things that changed the behavior of people in their house, of course it was alcohol and marijuana, and they were outdoing themselves on stories. Those little hands were going up, and I said, oh, we got to cut it off there, because I was just basically trying to find out
you got all the dirty
if they knew when people's behavior changed because they were doing something in particular. And I said, talk to them about alcohol, and it was in the house, and yes, my parents, I see them drink. And then I said, well, can you give me some examples of how people act when they do that? Oh, my goodness sake, I had to cut that off. We had been there all night. The stories got bigger and worse, and then marijuana got involved in it, and they really didn't know what that made people do so much, is they just knew that
it altered their behavior.
Yeah, that it changed
they weren't
things
right
for them. And so that was... I had put together this incredible material to go talk to them. And when I walked in there, I thought I would just ask that one question to get kind of an icebreaker. Well, it took the whole class. We used to have all the time I had with that one.
That one should have been recorded. That would have been priceless for down the road.
But people do change, and young people are no different than adults when they get involved with alcohol and other drugs. People want to change the way they feel for a lot of different reasons. And chemicals will do it. And when you get out and when you get out in the public, I tell people, I'm not here to monitor your life at home. But when you step out your front door, you're in the public.
You're right.
And there's a lot of responsibility there. Because I have a lot of angry people that get stopped and they don't think it's fair, and the laws are strict and the penalties are huge. And I said, well, what you do in the privacy of your own home is your business, but when you get out on that street, you take my life with you and the lives of others.
Right. It's a right, not an entitlement. So, Judy, thank you. I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks
I want to thank you for all that you've done for The Last Dance. Melody, thank you so much, and all you do over at the Trauma Center.
Well, she's gonna be the lead girl next year.
All right.
I got lots of notes for her.
All right, good. All right. Don't forget The Last Dance out at Cotter, Friday, March 30th, starting at 9 o'clock. Bring your lawn chair.
Please come.
Yeah,
please
come on down.
Support these young people, please, please.
Thank you so much for joining us today for BRMC's Healthy Connection.